Now I have to do talk on lightness as opposed to darkness. So I did a blog recently called The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is actually a book which I loved when I was a teenager. I just loved it. I haven't read it for many years though, and I also remember that the main character was quite a difficult, confused and suffering person. So I don't know what the title actually referred to, I just can't remember, and I was so young when I read it. But I just love that title, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. And the reason that I think that's such a nice title is I think that this is part of the problem in our society, is almost like we're taught to suffer. We're taught to think that life is complicated and life is something that we have to work really hard at, and if we're lucky and if we're fortunate, then we'll have moments of happiness. And what non-duality is talking about, the simplicity of what is, we almost feel like we're not allowed that, like that's too easy. That's almost seen as like a secondary. The moment, the present moment, what's happening is seen as secondary and something that is very irrelevant to experience. And the idea that there's freedom there, that there's this lightness of being, this freedom in the moment, seems to the mind, to the thinking mind, to the doing mind, unrational and too simplistic in a way. Like, how could the idea that the moment could have all the answers is like, what? How can the moment have all the answers? My mind, my thinking mind has all the answers and I'm going to work it out. And the idea that this moment has all the answers, not answers like you think, not words, not sentences, not ideas, but answers in there is no questions left, everything is known, but instantly. Well, you could say everything's not known, but there's a freedom in that. But you could also say it's known because there's nothing that's out of place, there's nothing that needs to be questioned. The questioning only arises when you feel like you've lost something, and when you feel there's something out of place, there's something that you lost. I was super lucky when I first heard this message, which was through Buddhism, and they talked about the present moment. I just fell in love with that. I knew what was being talked about, like my heart just responded to that. I knew that as soon as I put my attention in the present moment, there was a freedom beyond myself. But then I thought I couldn't stay in the present moment, which was true. Like, no matter how much effort I put into trying to be present, my mind kept pulling me into time again. And then it's not quite that. It's not that you have to be present, although sometimes the person practices that. Often the person practices that, and that helps settle the person. But it's seeing that your nature, your essence is always present. It's like a shift in perception. There's such a focus and authority given to time, and it's this realization that the timeless, which is your essence, which is right here, is inherently free. There's always a lightness, a freeness in experience, right in the middle of experience. So you might have loads of problems, like life might be being a disaster at the moment, like all types of problems. And when you think about the problems, everything is too overwhelming and you can't find an end to those problems. And it's important, most probably, to think about problems to an extent, but a small extent, to try to work it out and try and work out the best solution, but just to a small extent, but not live in those problems. So if we have problems, we're so consumed with them, our mind is always in them. But right here, you don't have a problem. Where is your problem? And it's like a reset. In every instant there is a reset. There is a freedom. Now, this isn't talking about ignoring your emotions. Sometimes you might have to cry about your problems or let out emotions or anger or frustration. It's not about denying that. That's part of being human, and that's present too. That's here too, and that's what happened. But it's also this seeing that there is no problems here. In your essence, being connected to this essence that's beyond the human form, that's beyond right and wrong and good and bad, and difficulties and not difficulties. And it's a real shift realizing this.